Hi, I'm Michael Mann, and I'd like to introduce Denis Villeneuve.
Hi, Michael. Thank you
Uh,
so much for this.
it's my pleasure. Congratulations. I've seen the film now 3 times,
Okay.
and it's a great film. In a way, I'm not surprised. I thought you were a brilliant and totally auteur director from the first of your films I saw in 2010. I saw Incendies, and that's when we met. And,
Yes.
and you seem to be on this absolute linear course of making one um, impressive, fantastic artistic film after another, and each one has a kind of an increase in magnitude. And so the couple of things that really struck me about Dune, which is so unusual, is kind of there's these juxtapositions of mise en scène, and it starts with the epic scale it that you've designed into it that makes us believe the political and military power. They're all true. They're all design. Uh, they're all design processes, but they don't deliver anything. Not in addition to delivering wonderful pictorial things, they truly are design that delivers content and emotion and impact. So one is the scale, the sense of physical scale that makes us believe the political and military power. Another is the second is the design is diversity. The diversity of the spaceship designs make us believe we're truly in a believable future. If we went to a giant used car lot, there'd be all kinds of models of cars and colors, and there'd be this huge variety. And a lot of science fiction makes the mistake of a kind of monolithic concept of monolithic technology. So there's only one kind of brand of car. And here, the diversity, both in costume design and also spaceships, all the hardware, make us believe we're in a believable universe, and the characters take no notice of it because their attitude is about how I'm going to relate to the ambassador from the emperor who has just shown up, who has a smirk on his face that's quizzical. Um, and another of these juxtapositions that struck me is the admixture of cultures. We're in the future, but we're in a feudal political economy. There is an admixture. We have future, futuristic technology, spaceships, but people are fighting with edged weapons, and all these are accepted with a assumed familiarity by the characters who are the actors you're directing to do exactly those things. And so it just flows to us magically, and we totally believe, we suspend all our disbelief and are totally with you in the film. And I thought that these kind of counterpoints, this aggregate of dualities, which makes it feel large, powerful, emotional, and dramatic, is just a masterpiece of directorial achievement. And it's not the kind of thing that people who don't do this notice. They know that they talk about the impact or they describe what they see, but behind that is all this decision making and conceptualization that I know you did very early on. And so anyway, congratulations. I think the film is really
You're
spectacular.
you're very, very generous, Michael. The thing is that it's all inspired by the novel, because in the novel, Frank Herbert studied the human being in a relationship with nature.
Uh,
He brings the human not on top of the ecosystem, but part of it. And there's a feeling of humility. And it's like the humans are not in relationship. It's not, Dune is not about exotic technology. It's about the triumph of the human spirit in the relationship with the ecosystem. So it was important that to bring the human figure in the frame, to bring that kind of feeling that the humans are not on top of the food chain, but they are part of the environment, and things are gigantic, and they have to build those gigantic ships around them to be able to confront themselves to nature. But there's something about also the way the design has been made is that I wanted us to focus on the characters and not being distracted as less as possible by that exotism of the high technology. So when you have those gigantism, when you go at the human level, it just becomes like blank canvas behind the characters, where you can just focus on the human experience or the character development through each scene. I mean, a film that really struck me when I was younger was Persona from Bergman, where you have all these close-ups that are shot in front of gray canvas, and I thought that there's something about how it grabs your attention and your focus entirely onto the inner introspective journey of the characters that I would say it was a kind of source of inspiration. I don't know, but there's something about that contrast that I was looking for.
Well, you found it, because the contrast you build is quite extraordinary. The Atreides are leaving the planet. We see a gigantic tube from which these little motes of dust come out. Then the motes of dust become these gigantic shuttles. Okay? And then the shuttle land, and then a little tiny ramp emerges, and these little tiny people come out. And so we're so blown away by the scale of all this, and we've just been taken through 3 orders of magnitude of scale. And then the little people turn out to be large faces, and they're not impressed with any of what we just saw, because you've directed them concerned about they've just landed on this planet that they're supposed to run, and that's what's on their mind. And so their attitude dismisses everything we've seen. So, and so something about the dialectic between the visual scale and the human drama that you've directed the actors to focus their attention upon, because you tell them what to put their attention upon. It generates this overall drama. Anyway, that's my take on it.
The thing is that there's something about the culture, the shock of cultures. But the thing that is fascinating in Dune. Have you read the book yourself? Did you read Dune? Did you ever read the book?
I read Dune decades and decades ago. I also read Destination Void, and I was surprised with the same author who wrote Destination Void, which is kind of a cybertech novel from, I think, the 70s or 80s. That he'd be writing Dune, which is kind of, in a realm of fantasy in a way.
Yeah. It's strange, because, to be honest with you, I have no memories of Destination Void. I should read it again. It's been such a long time since I've read it, but it's yeah. It's very fascinating how some novels stick to the mind and others go away.
Let me ask you a question about Bold, because House of Atreides sounds great, and the relationship of that family to Bold, you pick bullfighting, you pick Spanish culture. Were you tempted to think about Minoan culture, Mycenaean culture being Greek, and their worship of the bulls and Minoan culture, and bull jumping was this dominant obsession with the Mycenaeans?
What is your question exactly? I apologize.
Did you consider, rather than a representation of Spanish bullfighting, is
Spanish bullfighting? It's like, but the thing is that, from my understanding, Herbert inspired himself for the Atreides from some their Greek roots. So and in the same time, it's like there's a blend with the Spanish culture. What I feel fascinating about the bullfighting, this idea that the grandfather was a matador, is it gives something about the color of the culture, but it's also, more importantly, it's more about the psychology of this family. I mean, there's something, and there's a neurotic pattern of challenging fate. I mean, they're daredevil. I mean, this idea to think that you will be able to survive the charge of a bull, and that you will have that matador arrogance, and that is conveyed into the way the Duke Leto himself accept Arrakis, knowing that it's a trap, but thinks that he will be able to survive the trap. It's a bit as the same neurotic pattern that the grandfather had as he was a bullfighter himself. And I think that it will, that not pathology, but that in French I would say trait de caractère, that things that is, I'm fascinated by what is conveyed from one generation to the others in the subconscious. Right. The things, the heritage, things that I have impulse that I want to do, that are not conscious, coming from my father, coming from my grandfather. And I love, it fascinates me how to get free of those patterns. And it's like that force that drives the Atreides from the grandfather to the father to the son to Paul will soon have to deal with the same force. It's something that I think is fascinating.
Great. Let me ask you a question about the casting. The cast is fantastic. Francine Maisler, working with her, we can talk about that a bit, and then also how you happened on Zendaya to play Chani.
But the thing is, with Francine, is always laboratories where we brainstorm, and I love how she thinks outside the box, and she always bring surprising ideas on the table, and to destabilize me and to inspire me. And there are some people that I had in mind as I was writing that I wanted to add some precise ideas. And other times she came with suggestions that are in the movie that I was really inspired by. And Zendaya, if memory is good, it's an idea that came from Francine, or I think that Zendaya was interested herself, to participate to the casting. And I was like, at the time, I knew who she was. It was before Euphoria. But she had been in several movies, of course, but she had the generosity to come into a casting session. I wanted to work with her. I wanted to see her synergy with Timothée Chalamet, and she had the generosity and the humility to come at a regular casting session. And I think that she really spontaneously blew me away how she embodied the way she started to move differently, like someone that had lived in a total different climate condition, and started to embody the different way of behaviors because of a different culture. There was something fascinating about how spontaneously she was able to deliver that. She's a very, very strong actress. I'm really inspired by Zendaya, and the more I was working with her as I was shooting the movie, the more I shot. I improvised a lot with Zendaya. I added scene, and even as I was editing, I went back. I took a camera again, went back in the desert, and shot more with her, because it was like a magnetic force that I was feeling needed to drive the undercurrent of the movie. So I had more and more. So there will be definitely a lot of Zendaya in Dune 2.
Well, the poetry of her presence and her look, the enigmatic presence, it's just fantastic. I mean, it's just, obviously, now that you say that, I can see where you went back and let's do another piece over here, and she comes around the corner and over her shoulder. It's terrific.
And she's a she's very playful actress. She's afraid of nothing, and I love how she it's like a dance. She spontaneously, she didn't question anything. She just went for it all the time without. I was like that. I love when actors are trust me like that, and they spontaneously. It was like very, very inspiring to work with her. Yeah, I felt
There's
very lucky.
there's a lot of the work in the film is it's without dialogue. It's with expressions. When the ambassador charges the treaties that they have to go and take over the production of spice, at the end of that shot, there's a subtlest smirk on his face, and it's perfect because it doesn't shout that there's a hidden agenda, there's a conspiracy, you're being sent to fail. It doesn't say any of those things, but it sustains in memory enigmatically. And then as the story evolves, and we see that they have been sent there to fail by the emperor.
It's a fantastic actor. His name is Benjamin Clementine. Is a singer, and that was a Francine Meissler idea. Francine came with this idea, brought me a tape from Benjamin, and he's a born actor. It was the first time that he was in a movie. He had done music video because he's a musician, he's a singer, but he's a natural talent, and I was really impressed in his audition how far he could go. It's someone I would love to work with again and give him something more substantial because he's truly very, very talented. And he was very precise. I was able to ask for him like little nuances like that, and he was doing it with such an elegance. And it was his first scene. He had to play with all those actors in front of him, and he did it. So I was very proud of what he brought to the movie.
Yeah. Did you just drop the idea in his mind that there's another agenda here that the House of Atreides doesn't know?
Yeah, and I was impressed how, as let's say a beginner, I could install nuances like that in the way he was doing things. Is very impressive talent. I mean, it was the first time, and he was able to be that precise.
The costume design, like everything else, is all of a piece, and yet it all seems realistic and believable. And that's the virtue is, again, the variety is to a design, but the variety, the disparity, it just feels like real clothes on real people. And Jacqueline West and Bob Morgan's work. And there were, even to the still suits, obviously, but even to the hazmat suits. So the people who come in to defume, blank out his name, Harkonnen's room where he's hiding up on the ceiling like a bat, an obese bat. Everything about the design is so unusual. But I have to ask you on the still suits, are you familiar with Bilal at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and Bilal. Yes, you're talking about the French novelist. Very. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of all these guys: Moebius, Drouillet, Mézières, and Bilal. Yes, I deeply love Bilal's work. I'm a massive Bilal fan, and very often he comes as a reference, to be honest. And definitely, when I'm doing a movie, when I did Dune Part One, I really tried to focus on the novel and go back to those images I had in mind when I read the book, trying to go away from any other references, which is of course impossible because I'm the product of all these artists and definitely one of the first people that influenced me in my life were those graphic novelists from Europe, and Bilal is one of them. He's a astonishing, incredible artist. Yeah. So Bilal, that's nice.
Yeah, I read when it was Metal Hurlant, which first was French, and then it became translated, became heavy metal, which had a long run. And were you on? You worked with so many terrific people on this, and some of them I've worked with, like Francine and Doug Hempel and Joe Walker. who's particularly interesting as an editor. And there's a question submitted by Anna Morling, who asked when I asked Denis about his editing process and working with Joe Walker on his fourth collaboration. He's wonderful, and what most people, I mean, you know, I'm sure, but he was a pianist, and
yes, he was
a percussion instrument, and the musicality, you know, is in the brain, and you see it. Can you talk about that?
Joe is first of all, he is a musician, absolutely right, and he studied as a composer, and he became a classical composer. I mean, it's like a total. He is a composer, and he did compose orchestra pieces, and then probably for to earn a life, he had to switch and become a music. He became a sound editor for the BBC. For years. That's where he met Hans Zimmer, by the way. And through life, he became a movie editor. But his background is music. His background is sound. And it's a thing that really attracted me at first when I was in need to find an editor. This idea that to work with someone where the sound is that at the very epicenter of the way we'll cut a movie. When Joe and we are cutting the film, of course, he's cutting the structure of the images, but more importantly, under all the sound, I will not say sound design, but the sound philosophy of the movie will be embedded in the cut. It means that from this very early on, there's the spirit about how the movie will sound, and the structure of the sound and the musicality also. It's like, is someone that I feel has a very strong instinct how to weight the tension in a shot until how long a shot can last and what the length of a shot will create as a tension and as a suspense or as a surprise in the cut. There's something, it's very elegant the way you cut, and it's only the only editor I think that the way we work is of course, as I'm shooting, he start to cut, and I love that. I love that Joe takes the material at first, following my storyboards, but sometimes he takes some liberties, or sometimes he goes and interprets a scene, and it's the only editor that when I look at this raw cut, there are a few scenes that will almost stay intact until the director's cut, because he found some idea that blow my mind, and or sometimes it's perfectly how I'd love it to be cut, and so he has a sensibility that is, I would say, close to mine in some ways, that makes our job very stimulating, because I don't have to explain nothing to Joe. I mean, we just start from there, and when we recut the movie together, it's like a dance between us. It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, an editor, it's like, it's probably after my wife, I spend so much time with Joe Walker. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't think, someone was asking me recently, so you will work with this person, this artist, yes, I'm going to work with it. I said, you didn't mention Joe. I said, Joe has no choice. I will work with him no matter. I take him for granted. I cannot work with nobody else.
No, those become really intimate relationships. Do you have when you're shooting a scene, any scene, action scene or a dialogue scene, do you have an edit in your mind?
Yes.
When you're shooting.
Yes. It's first of all, I shoot with a single camera most of the time. There are very specific scenes in Dune that I had to shoot with multiple cameras, but in general, I shoot with one camera at the time, and it's like I was raised doing documentaries where I had to edit the documentaries in my mind. I had to make a spontaneous shot list, and to know where the shot will go as I was shooting. So it's like I'm used to shot list, and it's like if there's a cut, there's a mental cut that does exist as I'm shooting, and of course that mental cut will be disturbed by the performances of the actor. Something will happen, and that creates a lot of joy for me when the actor disturb that mental process, because it means that there's the life is there, and there's nothing more powerful than that.
And then it changes.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to disappear for 1 second here. I got another speaker. Okay, and then it changes so we have a plan in your head, and then Joe may do something, and it may be different.
The thing is that what I love again is that sometimes he does a cut that is better than what I had planned, and that always brings a lot of joy. An example of that is a scene that right at the beginning of the movie, there's a breakfast between the mother and the son, and the scene had been built in a certain way in my mind, and I'd done some insert that I thought will be placed at somebody else and somewhere else. I apologize. And Joe used those inserts to create some kind of a hypnotic moment. I thought he would use, just in my mind we were using one or two, but he used all of them, and it created something eerie that I didn't plan as I was shooting, and that it's one of my favorite moments of editing moment of the movie. I thought this was absolutely fantastic, and I didn't touch it. I said, okay, that's cut. Let's move forward. I don't want to touch it. It's too beautiful.
It's an interesting scene because it comes off of this massive sense of scale, and then suddenly you're into off the shot of her eye, Rebecca Ferguson's eye, and there's this clarity in her eye, and it's so intimate and human, and then you go from there, you go to this massive scale of outer space, and this, I think actually it cuts right to water. I think that's an overhead shot of the water that.
It's always see, the Dune is about the psyche of a boy being modified by a landscape, by a new planet. So there's no intermediate. It's like either you're very close to the character, or you are in a relationship with something, experiencing the impact of a full landscape. So it's like it's that duality, that big contrast that Greg Fraser and I played with as we were shooting.
When you were, let me ask you something about when you're planning. I'm curious. Do you do really, for example, doesn't do storyboards? He draws everything, and it has content because he's a fine artist. He draws everything, and as you read the scripts, he's drawing and throwing things around. Do you use storyboards? Do you find it restrictive? How do you plan?
But the thing is that the first way for me, the first movement is to draw storyboards, to explore that in these storyboards there will be exploration of trying to find a cinematic language that will be proper for the movie. Rhythm, the language of the shot, a style that will be unique for that precise movie, and so to define an alphabet through the storyboards, and also with these boards, I do design several objects, vehicles, costume design. There's something in the boards. There's already something that will give instructions to everybody, to all departments, and my storyboard artist is a close friend, that Sam Udeki, that is working with me since almost all my movies, and it's like an extension of my mind. It's really, my friends are joking, saying that I speak 3 languages, French, English, and Udeki. You know, it's like really like when we work together, there's like a very, very close artistic relationship that allows me to, and it's very, very precise. So it's, I can really, and it's, once the storyboard are done, when I rewrite the screenplay according to the boards. I readjust so everybody on the same page. And it's a process that was very important in movies like Arrival, where a lot of things evolve from the screenplay to the boards, and the same with Blade Runner, where working with Roger Deakins, we rewrote moments in the movie to bring them closer to the way we wanted to shoot them, and it changed the mise en scène, it changed the nature of the scene themselves. I mean, they were still saying the same thing, but the action sequence, or they were modified by radically by storyboards, very, very changed. It's a way to rewrite the movie again.
It's a very creative process when it's working the way you're talking about it. I worked with a photographer since 1979, kind of the same way. They become catalysts for inspiration, and all kinds of things come from it. It's not the creation of an image and then that then restricts you. I read that you're going to do that. You may do Voyage of Rama after doing.
Yeah, it's a novel that I read in the same period. It's very strange how life brings me back to that period of time. But it's a novel that I was stuck with me through the years, as Dune did. It's a very spiritual novel about our relationship with God, and I think it's like I was looking for a pretext to create a very hard sci-fi, existential sci-fi. I'm dreaming to do that since a long time, and I think that Rendezvous with Rama is a perfect novel to approach.
If you're going to exhaust the medium, what about if you're going to exhaust the medium? What about are there any period subjects that attract you?
Period. There's there's a character that I would love to explore, which it's Cleopatra. The complexity, the richness of that character she's someone that I would love to explore. Part of her life, relationships at that time. I'm always fascinated by the relationship of women with power, and I think that she's the ultimate representation of that. So it's like, I'm interested to maybe I hope it will happen. With cinema, you never know. You're dreaming and you hope it will happen, but I'm going one movie at a time. Yeah, so I can tell you that probably Dune 2 will happen, Dune Part 2. The other movie projects are just wishes.
Okay. Let's see what there was an expression on, again, subtle expressions on Rebecca Ferguson's face, Lady Jessica's face, a couple of times where she is disapproving of what Paul's doing, and knowing nothing at all about Dune 2. So it seemed to me that there's going to be a conflict between Paul and his mother. Is that?
It's something that in the book, Paul at one point realized that his mother. Of course, he knows that she raised him and instructed him to be give him all the education to become that being that the Bene Gesserit are all hoping that super being that will bring enlightenment to humanity, the Kwisatz Haderach, and she hopes, she has the arrogance to think that he could be the one. She disobeyed to her order, she's at the very epicenter of that story. She disobeyed and decided to make a boy that could have these powers. And Paul will be reluctant, and we realize the pressure under which his mother is putting himself, and he will at one point say in the novel that he realized that potentially his own mother is his enemy, and that for me is a very important moment in the novel, and it would definitely be part of Dune Part 2, this tension between the mother and the son.
Yeah. You shot in Abu Dhabi and Jordan. What did you shoot in? Did you use? Where did you shoot? Were there deserts in Abu Dhabi, or were they in Jordan?
Both. The sand dunes. The sand dunes were in Abu Dhabi. The rock formations were in Jordan. I shot in Jordan because in the novel there were descriptions of those islands of rock in the middle of oceans of the dunes.
Right.
Dunes and the way Herbert described the rock formation, it really looks like Jordan. And I think it's he was himself inspired by Lawrence of Arabia, and I think that he was probably influenced by Jordan when he wrote Dune. So it's like I think it was natural to go there, to stay faithful to the spirit of the novel.
When you were dealing with the visual effects, how much of physical reality were you able to provide yourself with, as opposed to I'm in a room with a green screen and you see that piece of tape? It's not really a piece of tape. It's actually, you know.
I try for my own mental sanity to have as much reality around me as possible. That's why I insist. I said that I had one condition when I decided to. In fact, I had two conditions. I said it needs to be in 2 parts, and I need to shoot in a real desert, in a real environment. I don't want to recreate the desert in CG. I really want us to receive the impact of the desert, to be inspired by it, and to play with it. And it's obvious when you look at the movie that we had never been able to recreate that. I mean, I will not have been able to do that in a virtual environment. I mean, it's like that relationship with the landscape is something that really inspired us all as we were shooting.
Well, it inspires you, inspires the actors, it inspires the cast and everything else. I mean, it's
no, but some directors can. I mean, but me, I'm old-fashioned, I guess.
Great. Anyway, it's a wonderful accomplishment. It's a wonderful film, and when we were doing, it's my pleasure. When we were designing the new theater at the DGA, we were auditioning 2 sound systems, JBLs and Myers. We went with Myers, but the film we used was Blade Runner 2049, and it was spectacular to see it on that massive screen with the best sound on the planet. And so then the first time I saw it Dune was when we were there at IMAX, and it's wonderful. That's great, and so anyway, good for you.
Thank you. It was an honor to talk with you, Michael. It's always a great pleasure. Thank you very much. It was very, very generous. Thank you.
Say hi to your wife. Thank you. Bye-bye.